Queen Lyrily stood on her crystal throne, watching the strange visitors from the small blue planet called Earth. Her skin sparkled like diamonds in the palace light. Her eyes glowed soft purple as she used her mind powers to read the thoughts of everyone in the room, everyone except one. The human delegation looked so small compared to her mighty Zephyrian warriors. Most aliens who came to her empire brought gifts of rare metals or powerful weapons. These humans brought something different. They brought flowers, books, and music. How odd, but there was one human who caught her attention. He was not the leader of their group. He was not the tallest or strongest. He was a quiet man with dark hair and gentle brown eyes. His name was Marcus Chen. While the other humans talked about trade agreements, Marcus knelt beside an injured palace servant who had fallen down the stairs. "Let me help you," Marcus said softly. His hands glowed with a strange blue light as he touched the servant's broken leg. The bone healed instantly. The servant looked up at Marcus with wonder, but Marcus just smiled and helped him stand up. Lyrily had never seen anything like this. In her empire, the strong ruled and the weak served. No one helped servants. No one cared about the injured unless they were important. But this human treated everyone the same way. "Your healing powers are impressive," Lyrily said, walking down from her throne. Her voice echoed in the great hall. Marcus looked up at her and bowed politely. "Thank you, Your Majesty. I am just a doctor. Helping others is what I do." "Just a doctor?" Lyrily tried to read his mind, but it was like hitting a wall. Human thoughts were protected somehow. This made her even more curious. "What kind of doctor?" "I study alien life forms," Marcus explained. "I learn about different species so humans can understand them better. I want to help our peoples become friends." The other humans in the delegation looked nervous. They knew their queen could kill with a thought. But Marcus seemed completely calm. He looked at her like she was just another person, not a dangerous ruler who controlled half the galaxy. Over the next few days, Marcus stayed in the palace while the diplomats worked on their agreements. He spent his time in the gardens, taking care of the strange plants and animals that lived there. Lyrily found herself watching him from her window. She saw him feed the crystal birds by hand. She saw him gently move a poisonous snake to safety when gardeners wanted to kill it. She saw him sit quietly with the sad-looking moonflowers, talking to them in soft whispers until they began to bloom again. "Why do you care so much about plants and animals?" Lyrily asked one evening. She had come to the garden to find him reading under the purple moonlight. Marcus looked up from his book. It was a collection of human poetry. "Everything deserves kindness," he said simply. "Strong or weak, big or small, life is precious." "In my empire, only the strong matter," Lyrily said, sitting on a stone bench nearby. "The weak exist to serve the strong. That is the natural way." "Is it?" Marcus asked. He showed her a picture in his book. It was a human mother holding a baby. "This little human cannot fight or work or serve anyone. But we protect it anyway. We love it anyway. That makes us stronger, not weaker." Lyrily stared at the picture. She had never thought about strength this way before. In her world, babies who could not use mind powers were often left to die. Only the strong survived to adulthood. "Your people sound very different from mine," she said. "Different can be good," Marcus replied. He picked a small flower and offered it to her. "This flower is not strong. It cannot hurt anyone or protect itself, but it makes the garden more beautiful." Lyrily took the flower. Her crystal skin began to glow softly. This human confused her in the best way possible. He made her think about things she had never considered before. As the weeks passed, Marcus and Lyrily spent more time together. He told her stories about Earth, about humans who chose to help instead of hurt. He showed her human art that celebrated peace and love instead of war and conquest. He taught her human songs that made her feel emotions she did not have words for. "Your species must be very weak if you value kindness so much," Lyrily said one day. But she said it gently, not as an insult. Marcus smiled. "Maybe we are. Or maybe we learned that being kind takes more strength than being cruel." "How can that be true?" "It is easy to destroy," Marcus explained. "Any fool with a weapon can hurt someone. But to build something beautiful, to heal instead of harm, to choose love when hate would be easier, that takes real power." Lyrily felt something warm in her chest when he spoke like this. She had ruled through fear for so long that she had forgotten there were other ways to be strong. One night she made a decision that shocked her entire empire. She asked Marcus to become her mate. "You want to bond with a human?" Her advisors gasped. Your Majesty, humans are soft creatures. They have no mind powers. They cannot help you rule. Maybe I do not want help ruling, Lirelai said. Maybe I want help learning. The mating ceremony was beautiful. Lirelai and Marcus joined their life forces together in the ancient Zephyrian way. She felt his soul touch hers, warm and gentle like sunlight. For the first time in her life, she felt truly peaceful. Marcus moved into the palace as her consort. He did not try to change her empire or give her advice about ruling. He simply continued being himself. He tended the gardens. He helped the servants. He read his books and shared his stories. But Lirelai began to notice small things about her new mate. The way he moved was too smooth, too perfect. When dangerous animals in the palace zoo saw him coming, they backed away without knowing why. Sometimes she caught him staring at star maps with an expression she could not understand. Marcus, she said one evening, what did you do before you became a scientist? I studied, he said simply. I learned about life and how to protect it. It was not really an answer, but Lirelai did not push. She was happy. Marcus made her laugh. He made her think. He made her want to be better than she was. The palace staff loved him too. He learned everyone's names. He asked about their families. When someone was sick, he healed them without being asked. When someone was sad, he listened to their problems. The human prince is strange, the servants whispered. He treats us like we matter. He is not like other royals, they agreed. He has a good heart. Lirelai watched her mate tend to an injured bird in the garden. His hands were so gentle as he set its broken wing. His voice was so soft as he whispered to comfort it. This was the man she had fallen in love with. Kind, gentle, peaceful Marcus. She had no idea that beneath his calm surface something far more dangerous lay sleeping. She had no idea that the gentle hands now healing a small bird had once commanded the destruction of entire fleets. She had no idea that the man who brought her flowers and read her poetry had a mind that could outthink any general in the galaxy. All she knew was that she loved him, and she believed that his kindness was the most powerful thing about him. She would soon learn how wrong she was. 6 months had passed since Marcus became Lirelai's mate. The palace felt different now. Servants smiled more often. The gardens bloomed brighter than ever before. Even the War Council meetings seemed less tense when Marcus was nearby. He had become the heart of the royal court without trying. Every morning he walked through the palace halls, greeting everyone from the highest nobles to the kitchen staff. His gentle presence seemed to calm even the most aggressive Zephyrian warriors. The human has made you soft, my queen, General Corax grumbled during one War Council meeting. He was Lirelai's oldest advisor, covered in battle scars from 100 campaigns. Your enemies will see this weakness. Is kindness weakness? Lirelai asked, remembering Marcus's words. Of course it is, General Corax snapped. A ruler must be feared, not loved. Fear keeps the empire strong. Marcus sat quietly in the corner, reading a book about Zephyrian history. He did not look up when the generals spoke about him. He never argued with them or tried to defend himself. This only made them more suspicious. What do you think, human? General Corax demanded. Should we rule through love or fear? Marcus closed his book and looked up with his usual gentle smile. I think people fight harder to protect something they love than something they fear. The generals laughed. Soft human thinking, they said. But Lirelai noticed that none of them could meet Marcus's eyes when they laughed. Something about his calm gaze made them uncomfortable. Life continued peacefully for several more weeks. Marcus spent his days in the palace gardens, growing earth flowers that amazed the royal botanists. He taught the servants' children how to read. He helped Lirelai plan festivals that celebrated life instead of conquest. Then the reports began to arrive. The first message came from the outer rim of Zephyrian space. An entire star system had gone dark. No communication. No signals, just empty space where millions of people used to live. Pirates, General Corax suggested, or rebels trying to break away from the Empire. But more reports came. Another system, then another, each one completely empty, as if every living thing had simply vanished. This is not pirates, Lirelai said, studying the star maps in her war room. Pirates steal. They do not make entire worlds disappear. The truth came with the next report. A scout ship had found the remains of one of the lost systems. The planets were still there, but they were gray and lifeless. Something had drained every bit of life from them. The Void Swarm, whispered Admiral Thane. the oldest warrior in the Empire. His face went pale. I thought they were just stories. What is the Void Swarm? Lyrelai demanded. Ancient enemy, Admiral Thane explained. From the old stories. They travel between galaxies, eating everything alive. They have not been seen for 1,000 years. Marcus had been standing quietly near the window looking at the star charts. Now he stepped closer to the table. How fast are they moving? He asked. What does it matter? General Korak snapped. You are just a scientist. How fast? Marcus asked again. His voice was still gentle, but something in it made the general answer. 3 months, Admiral Thane said. Maybe less before they reach our core worlds. Marcus nodded and walked back to the window. He stood there for a long time, staring out at the stars. Lyrelai felt something strange through their mating bond. For just a moment, Marcus felt different. Cold. Calculating. Like a machine made for war. Then the feeling passed, and he was her gentle mate again. Over the next few days, Marcus began asking strange questions. He wanted to see the military archives. He studied star charts of their territory. He asked about communication networks and supply lines. Why are you interested in military matters? Lyrelai asked one evening. I want to help with evacuation plans, Marcus said. If the Void Swarm cannot be stopped, we need to save as many people as possible. It made sense. Marcus always wanted to help people. But Lyrelai noticed other things. The way he moved through the palace had changed slightly. His steps were more purposeful. His eyes missed nothing. The palace guards had begun standing straighter when he passed. They did not know why. Marcus was still polite and friendly with them, but something deep in their warrior instincts recognized a predator when they saw one. The human walks like a soldier, one guard whispered to another. Impossible, his friend replied. He is just a doctor, a soft scientist, but they both felt it. The perfect balance, the controlled movements, the way Marcus always knew exactly where everyone was in any room. The War Council met every day now as more reports came in. The Void Swarm was getting closer. Their advanced scouts had been spotted in the middle systems. Panic was starting to spread through the Empire. We need to evacuate the outer colonies, General Korax argued. Pull our fleets back to defend the core worlds. That leaves billions of people to die, Admiral Thane protested. Better some live than all die, General Korax shot back. They argued for hours. Lyrelai listened to plan after plan, but none of them seemed good enough. They were all about running or hiding or choosing who to sacrifice. Marcus sat in his usual corner, quiet as always. But Lyrelai could feel tension building in him through their bond. His hands were perfectly still, but she sensed coiled energy like a spring wound too tight. What about fighting them? Marcus asked suddenly. The room went quiet. Everyone turned to look at him. Fight the Void Swarm? General Korax laughed. Human, they have destroyed 1,000 civilizations. They eat star fleets for breakfast. What could you possibly know about fighting them? Marcus stood up slowly. His movement was so smooth it seemed to flow like water. Tell me about their tactics, he said. Why? General Korax demanded. Tell me, Marcus repeated. His voice was still soft, but now it carried absolute authority. The general found himself answering without knowing why. They attack in waves. First scouts, then warriors, then the feeders who drain the life from everything. They adapt to any defense. They learn from every battle. They never retreat, Marcus nodded. Supply lines? Unknown. They seem to need no supplies. Command structure? We think they have hive queens, but no one has ever seen one and lived. Marcus walked to the star chart. He studied it for several minutes. The room stayed silent. Even General Korax seemed afraid to interrupt his thinking. Here, Marcus said finally, pointing to a system near the border. This is where we stop them. Stop them? Admiral Thane gasped. Human, no one stops the Void Swarm. Marcus turned around. For a moment his gentle mask slipped. Lyrelai saw something in his eyes that made her blood freeze. It was not cruelty. It was not anger. It was the cold, perfect focus of a natural killer. No one has tried the right way, Marcus said quietly. And what way is that? General Korax demanded, his voice shaking slightly. Marcus smiled. It was his usual kind smile, but now it seemed dangerous. The human way. The room erupted in argument. Generals shouted about impossible plans and foolish hopes. But Lyrelai only watched her mate. She felt something awakening in him through their bond. Something that had been sleeping for a long time. Marcus walked back to his chair and picked up his book. I will need access to all military records, he said calmly. Fleet positions, weapon capabilities, strategic analyses, everything. You are not in command here, human, General Korax snarled. Marcus looked up from his book. The general stepped back without thinking. No, Marcus said softly, not yet. That night, Larrely found Marcus in their bedroom, surrounded by star charts and military reports. He was reading faster than should be possible, his eyes moving across the data like a computer processing information. Marcus, she said carefully, what are you doing? He looked up at her with those same gentle brown eyes she had fallen in love with. Learning how to save everyone, he said. But through their bond, she felt something that terrified her. Her kind, peaceful mate was becoming something else, something that understood war in ways that made her empire's greatest generals look like children playing with toys. She had thought she knew Marcus completely. She was about to discover she knew nothing at all. The Void Swarm scout ships appeared in the outer systems like a plague of metal locusts. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in spikes and pulsing with dark energy. They moved through space in perfect formation, leaving dead worlds in their wake. Admiral Thane stood on the bridge of the flagship, watching the enemy advance. His fleet of 300 warships looked tiny compared to what was coming. But they had to try. The evacuation ships behind them carried millions of civilians. Sir, his communications officer called out, we have a request to come aboard. From who? The human. Marcus Chen. He says the Queen has given him permission to observe the battle. Admiral Thane sighed. The last thing he needed was a civilian on his bridge during the most important battle of his life. But Queen Larrely's orders were clear. Let him come. Marcus arrived in a small shuttle. He wore simple clothes and carried nothing but a data pad. He looked exactly like what he claimed to be, a peaceful scientist who wanted to help with refugee aid. Thank you for allowing me aboard, Marcus said politely. I promise not to get in your way. Just stay in the corner, Admiral Thane muttered. And try not to panic when the shooting starts. The first battle began an hour later. The Void Swarm scouts attacked with terrifying coordination. They moved like a single organism, each ship knowing exactly where the others would be. The Zephyrian fleet fought bravely, using their mind powers to coordinate their own attacks, but it was not enough. The enemy ships adapted to every tactic. When the Zephyrians used energy weapons, the Void Swarm grew armor that absorbed energy. When they tried physical projectiles, the enemy developed shields that deflected them. Ship after ship fell from the Zephyrian fleet. Admiral Thane watched his life's work crumble before his eyes. Sir, the tactical officer reported, we have lost 60% of our forces. Request permission to retreat. Admiral Thane closed his eyes. Permission granted. Signal the fleet to... Wait, Marcus said quietly. Everyone on the bridge turned to look at him. The human had been silent throughout the entire battle, just watching and taking notes on his datapad. Wait for what? Admiral Thane demanded. We are being destroyed. You are fighting them wrong, Marcus said. He walked to the tactical display, moving with fluid grace that seemed out of place for a civilian. May I? You want to give tactical advice? Admiral Thane laughed bitterly. Human, I have been fighting wars since before your species left their home planet. Marcus looked at him with those gentle brown eyes. And how many wars have you won against enemies like this? The question hung in the air. Admiral Thane had won dozens of battles against other civilized species. But those enemies fought with honor and predictable tactics. The Void Swarm was something else entirely. What do you suggest? Admiral Thane asked reluctantly. Marcus touched the tactical display. The star map changed, showing ship positions and movement patterns. They adapt to direct confrontation because they expect it. Every species they have fought uses the same basic strategies. Form battle lines, exchange fire, try to overpower them. What else is there? The tactical officer asked. Human tactics, Marcus said simply. He began moving ship icons on the display. Humans learned long ago that the strongest enemy can be defeated if you make them fight the wrong battle. Explain. Marcus highlighted a group of Void Swarm ships. They move as a hive mind. Perfect coordination, but also perfect predictability. If you know how one ship will react, you know how they all will react. Admiral Thane studied the display. So you make them react to something that benefits you, Marcus explained. He programmed a new formation into the tactical computer. Divide your fleet into small groups. Make them think you are retreating in panic. Draw them into pursuit formations. That will scatter our forces, the weapons officer protested. We will be even weaker, Marcus smiled. It was his same kind smile, but now it looked predatory. Weakness can be a weapon if your enemy believes it. Against his better judgment, Admiral Thane found himself following Marcus's suggestions. The Zephyrian fleet broke apart into small groups and began what looked like a panicked retreat. The Void Swarm ships pursued eagerly, spreading out to catch the fleeing vessels. Now what? Admiral Thane asked. Now we show them something they have never seen before, Marcus said. His fingers danced over the tactical controls with the speed and precision of a master musician. Human pack hunting. The scattered Zephyrian ship suddenly changed direction. Instead of running, they converged on individual Void Swarm vessels. 3 or 4 ships would attack one enemy from different angles, then disappear before reinforcements could arrive. Impossible, the sensor officer gasped. The enemy ships are falling back. They are confused, Marcus nodded. Hive minds are efficient, but they do not handle chaos well. Keep changing the pattern. Never let them adapt to the same tactic twice. For the first time in the battle, Zephyrian ships began destroying Void Swarm vessels. The enemy formation started to break apart as they tried to respond to attacks that made no sense according to their understanding of warfare. How do you know this will work? Admiral Thane asked, watching the tide of battle turn. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Because it worked before, he said finally. When? Against who? Against everyone, Marcus replied softly. The bridge crew stared at him. This gentle scientist was coordinating a space battle with the skill of a master strategist. His fingers moved across the controls like he had been doing this all his life. Signal the fleet, Marcus continued. Prepare for Phase 2 of the attack. There is a Phase 2? Admiral Thane asked. There is always a Phase 2, Marcus said. The enemy thinks they understand us now. Time to show them they are wrong again. The next part of the battle was even more confusing. The Zephyrian ships began using tactics that seemed to break every rule of space combat. They flew in impossible patterns, attacked targets that made no strategic sense, and retreated from victories that should have been pressed. But somehow it worked. The Void Swarm ships could not predict what would happen next. Their perfect coordination became a weakness as they tried to respond to attacks that followed no logical pattern. Admiral, the communications officer called out, we are receiving a message from the Void Swarm fleet. What do they want? They are asking for terms of surrender. The bridge went completely silent. In 1,000 years of galactic history, no one had ever heard of the Void Swarm surrendering. Tell them we accept, Marcus said calmly, and ask them why they came to our galaxy. The answer came back quickly. The Void Swarm was not expanding by choice. They were running from something even worse. Ancient beings from the galactic core that consumed entire civilizations for food. The Entropy Lords, Admiral Thane whispered. I thought they were myths. Everything is a myth until it tries to kill you, Marcus said. He was studying the star charts again, his mind already working on the next problem. How long before these Entropy Lords arrive? 6 months, came the reply from the Void Swarm ships. Marcus nodded. Then we have 6 months to prepare. Prepare for what? Admiral Thane asked. Marcus looked up from the charts. For a moment his gentle mask slipped completely. Admiral Thane saw something in those brown eyes that made him step back in fear. It was not madness or cruelty. It was the cold calculation of a predator that had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of war. To show the universe what happens when you threaten humanity's friends, Marcus said quietly, through the mental bond with his mate. Lirelai felt everything that happened on the battlefield. She felt Marcus's mind work through problems that had stumped her best generals in minutes. She felt his absolute certainty that victory was possible even against impossible odds. But most terrifying of all, she felt his joy. Not the happiness of a peaceful man forced to fight, but the deep satisfaction of a weapon finally being used for its intended purpose. Her gentle mate was becoming something magnificent and terrible. And she realized that everything she thought she knew about humans had been completely wrong. They were not a weak species that valued kindness because they had no choice. They were apex predators who had chosen to be kind because they were strong enough to afford it, and now that choice was being taken away. Marcus returned to the palace a hero. News of the impossible victory spread through the Empire faster than light-speed communications. The gentle human consort had defeated the Legendary void swarm using tactics no one had ever seen before. But Lyrelei barely recognized the man who walked into their bedroom that night. He still moved with the same fluid grace. He still spoke in the same soft voice. But something fundamental had changed. His eyes held depths that had not been there before, like looking into an ancient well. "You lied to me," Lyrelei said quietly. Marcus stopped unpacking his things. "About what?" "About who you are." "What you are?" She stood by the window, her crystal skin dim with sadness. "I felt everything through our bond. Your mind during that battle, it was like watching a machine built for war." Marcus sat on the edge of their bed. He looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with physical exhaustion. "I never lied to you. I am exactly who I said I was. A doctor, a scientist, someone who wants to help. And someone who used to be very good at killing," Marcus admitted. "Before I became a doctor, I was something else. Something I hoped I would never have to be again." Lyrelei turned to face him. "What were you?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Humans have a word, strategist. It means someone who plans battles and wars. I was the best strategist humanity ever produced. How good? Good enough to conquer half the galaxy before I turned 30, Marcus said softly. Good enough that other species still tell stories about the human wars, even though we stopped fighting decades ago. Lyrelei felt cold. "You conquered half the galaxy?" "We conquered everything," Marcus corrected. "Every species that tried to hurt us. Every empire that thought humans were weak prey. We broke them all. Then why did you stop?" Marcus looked at his hands. The same hands that had gently healed her servants now seemed different somehow. "Because we realized we were becoming the very thing we had fought against, conquerors, destroyers, so we chose to stop." "Just like that?" "Just like that," Marcus confirmed. "We pulled back our fleets. We offered peace to everyone we had defeated. We chose to become explorers and doctors and teachers instead of warriors." Lyrelei sank into a chair. "The human delegation that came to my empire. All former military," Marcus said. "We send our old soldiers as diplomats now. Who better to make peace than those who know the true cost of war? And you? What was your rank?" Marcus smiled sadly. "I did not have a rank. I was too dangerous for the normal military structure. They called me the Ghost General, the human who could win any battle before it was fought. Why did you not tell me this?" "Because I hoped I would never have to be that person again," Marcus explained. "I came to your empire looking for peace. I found love instead. I thought maybe I could stay the man you fell in love with forever." Lyrelei felt something breaking inside her chest. "But now? Now I have to protect you," Marcus said simply. "The Entropy Lords are coming, and they are worse than anything the galaxy has ever seen." Over the next few weeks, Marcus began to change. Not all at once, but gradually, like a flower blooming in reverse. The gentle gardener remained. But underneath him, something ancient and deadly stirred to life. He requested access to every military database in the Empire. He studied weapon designs, fleet compositions, and strategic resources with the intensity of a scholar and the instincts of a born killer. "The Entropy Lords are not like the Void Swarm," he explained to Lyrelei one evening. They were in the war room, surrounded by star charts and tactical displays. The Swarm followed patterns. They could be confused and outmaneuvered. But the Lords are intelligent. They learn, they adapt, and they have been conquering galaxies for millions of years. And can they be defeated? "Anything can be defeated," Marcus said. "But the cost..." He trailed off, staring at a display showing estimated civilian casualties. "What cost?" "To beat an enemy this powerful, we would have to become something terrible," Marcus said quietly. "We would have to fight the way humans fought during the conquest wars. Total war, no mercy, no hesitation, no limits." Lyrelei shivered. "Show me." Marcus touched the tactical display. The room filled with holographic projections showing battle formations, weapon trajectories, and strategic movements. But these were not the elegant, civilized tactics her generals favored. These were brutal, efficient, and utterly ruthless. "Human military doctrine is based on a simple principle," Marcus explained. "End the war as quickly as possible by making continued fighting impossible for the enemy. We do not try to win battles. We try to destroy the enemy's ability to fight. How? We target everything that keeps them alive. Supply lines, communication networks, manufacturing centers, command structures. We turn their own territory into a weapon against them. The projections showed scenarios that made Lyralee's stomach turn. Planets turned into giant bombs. Entire star systems used as traps. Psychological warfare that broke enemy civilizations from within. This is what you did to conquer the galaxy. This is what we did to survive, Marcus corrected. Every species in the galaxy wanted to destroy humanity when we first left Earth. They saw us as a threat that needed to be eliminated. So we showed them what a real threat looked like. And now I have to decide if I am willing to become that monster again, Marcus said. To save you. To save everyone. The decision was made for him 3 days later. The Entropy Lord sent a message to every inhabited world in the galaxy. It was not a demand for surrender or a threat of destruction. It was a dinner invitation. We have come to harvest this galaxy, the message said in a voice like grinding stone. You will provide excellent sustenance for our journey to the next feeding ground. Do not resist. It will only make the process more painful. The galaxy erupted in panic. Some species tried to flee to other galaxies. Others began building massive defense fleets. A few simply gave up and accepted their fate. But Marcus did something different. He sent a reply. No, that was all, one word. But the way he said it, the absolute certainty in his voice made every human in the galaxy stand a little straighter. You have made a mistake, the Entropy Lords responded. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. We are beyond your comprehension, Marcus smiled. It was not his gentle smile anymore. It was the smile of a predator who had just been challenged by something foolish enough to think it was stronger. You have never fought humans before, he said simply. The Entropy Lords laughed. It was a sound like dying stars. One small species against the devourers of galaxies? What could you possibly do to stop us? Marcus stood in the palace war room, surrounded by star charts showing the positions of every fleet, every world, every resource in the galaxy. His mind was already working, planning, calculating. We are going to teach you why every intelligent species in the galaxy has nightmares about human tactics, he said quietly. Through their bond, Lyralee felt the last of Marcus's gentle nature lock itself away in a deep part of his mind. What emerged in its place was something that had been sleeping for 30 years, waiting for a threat great enough to justify its awakening. The Ghost General had returned. And this time he was fighting for love instead of conquest. The galaxy was about to learn why humans had chosen peace, not because they were weak, but because they were too dangerous to be anything else. The Entropy Lords arrived like a plague of darkness spreading across the galaxy. Their ships were not built. They were grown from the bones of dead civilizations. Each vessel pulsed with the life force they had stolen from 1 billion worlds. Their leader was something that had once been a star god, before hunger consumed everything else about it. It called itself the Devourer Prime, and its voice could drive lesser beings insane just by hearing it. We will begin with your core worlds, the Devourer Prime announced to the galaxy. Your fear will make the harvest sweeter. But Marcus was ready. For 3 months he had worked without sleep, turning the entire galaxy into a weapon. Every trade route became a trap. Every communication array became part of a vast network designed to confuse and misdirect. Every civilian evacuation ship carried hidden weapons and sensor equipment. You cannot fight them directly, Marcus explained to the combined fleet commanders from every species in the galaxy. They are too powerful. But power can become a weakness if you know how to use it against them. The first battle took place in the Outer Rim. A small human fleet faced the advance guard of the Entropy Lords. The aliens watched through long-range sensors, expecting another massacre. Instead, they witnessed something impossible. The human ships did not fight the Entropy Lords. They danced around them. Every time the enemy tried to use their life-draining powers, the humans were somewhere else. Every time the Lords adapted to a tactic, the humans had already moved on to something completely different. How are they doing this? Admiral Thane asked, watching the battle from his command ship. Humans do not think like other species, Marcus explained calmly. We do not plan 5 moves ahead. We plan 50 moves ahead, and we always have a backup plan for our backup plan. The human fleet led the Entropy Lords deeper into the galaxy, drawing them away from their support ships. The aliens began to realize this was not a retreat, it was a hunt. Impossible, the Devourer Prime raged. We have devoured galaxies. How can one small species resist us? Marcus answered from his flagship. Because you have never fought a species that turned war into an art form. The second phase of the battle began when the Entropy Lords reached the middle rim. Here, Marcus sprang his first real trap. The Lords found themselves surrounded by what looked like empty space, but hidden in the darkness were thousands of automated weapon platforms powered by the gravity of nearby stars. When the enemy ships entered the killing zone, the entire region erupted in crossfire. Clever, the Devourer Prime admitted as his forces took heavy casualties. But we adapt quickly. I know, Marcus said. I am counting on it. The Entropy Lords did adapt. They developed shields that could absorb the energy weapons. They created armor that deflected physical projectiles. They became immune to every attack the automated platforms could produce, which was exactly what Marcus wanted. Now, he whispered. The weapon platforms suddenly stopped, firing energy beams and projectiles. Instead, they began broadcasting something else entirely. Pure information. Mathematical equations that described the fundamental structure of reality. The same equations that held the Entropy Lord's stolen life force together. What are you doing? The Devourer Prime screamed as his ships began to shake apart. Teaching you about human psychological warfare, Marcus replied. We do not just break your ships. We break your minds. The information weapon was devastating. The Entropy Lords had based their existence on consuming and controlling life force. But the human equations showed them a truth they could not accept, that all energy, including the energy they had stolen, followed natural laws that made their power ultimately meaningless. Half the enemy fleet simply fell apart as their crews lost the will to exist. But the Devourer Prime was stronger than his servants. He rallied the remaining ships and pushed deeper into the galaxy, driven by rage and hunger. You think you can defeat gods with mathematics? He roared. No, Marcus said quietly. I think I can defeat gods with love. The final battle took place in the core worlds, where Lyrelai waited with the last defense fleet. The Entropy Lords arrived like a storm of death, their remaining ships crackling with stolen power, but they found something they had never encountered before. An entire civilization willing to die for each other. Lyrelai had used the time. Marcus bought her to unite every species in the galaxy. Zephyrians fought alongside their ancient enemies. Former slaves stood beside their old masters. Species that had warred for millennia put aside their differences to protect their shared home. This is impossible, the Devourer Prime gasped, as wave after wave of defenders threw themselves against his forces. Why do they fight so hard? They must know they cannot win. They fight because they love something more than they fear you, Marcus explained. His voice was broadcast across every ship in both fleets, and that makes them more powerful than you can imagine. The Entropy Lords had faced countless civilizations. They had conquered species with incredible technology, vast fleets and powerful warriors. But they had never faced a civilization that fought with genuine unity and love. Every time they destroyed a ship, 2 more took its place. Every time they killed a defender, 10 more volunteered. The galaxy's population threw themselves into battle with a courage that came from knowing they were protecting everything they cared about. Retreat, the Devourer Prime finally ordered. We will return when they are weaker. No, Marcus said. You will not. The final trap was revealed. While the galaxy fought desperately to hold the line, Marcus had been working on something else. Hidden throughout the battle zone were millions of tiny devices, each one broadcasting a specific frequency. When activated together, they created something the universe had never seen before, a perfect harmony of energy that resonated with the fundamental frequency of life itself. The effect on the Entropy Lords was immediate and devastating. Beings that existed by consuming life force found themselves unable to process the pure, joyful energy that surrounded them. Their stolen power began to turn against them, seeking to return to its original sources. What have you done? The Devourer Prime screamed as his body began to dissolve. I have reminded the universe what it means to be alive, Marcus said. Life is not just energy to be consumed. It is choice, hope, love, and sacrifice. Things you forgot when you chose to become parasites. The Entropy Lords fell apart like shadows exposed to sunlight. Their ships crumbled. Their stolen power returned to the cosmos. In minutes, a threat that had consumed galaxies for millions of years simply ceased to exist. The galaxy erupted in celebration. Every world, every ship, every living being cheered for the impossible victory. They had faced the ultimate darkness and emerged into the light, but Marcus felt no joy. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the wreckage of the enemy fleet drift away into space. The battle was won, but he knew the cost. Marcus, Lyrelai's voice came through their mental bond. Is it over? It is over, he confirmed. The entropy lords are gone. The galaxy is safe, then come home. Marcus closed his eyes. I do not know if I can. What do you mean? To win this war, I had to become the thing I swore I would never be again. The Ghost General. The weapon that humans built to conquer the galaxy. I do not know if I can put that back to sleep. Through their bond, Lyrelai felt the depth of his pain. Marcus had saved everyone, but the cost was himself. He had awakened something inside him that was too dangerous to ignore but too powerful to fully control. Come home, she repeated. Let me help you remember who you chose to be. Marcus looked at his hands. The same hands that had orchestrated the destruction of an enemy older than his species. The same hands that had once gently healed an injured bird in a palace garden. What if I cannot? Then I will love both versions of you, Lyrelai said simply. The gentle doctor and the warrior who saved us all. They are both part of who you are. 3 days later, Marcus returned to the palace. He walked through the same gardens where he had spent peaceful months growing flowers and tending animals. But now everyone he passed looked at him with awe and fear. He was a hero. The human who had saved the galaxy. The gentle man who had become a weapon of unimaginable power when his people needed him most. I am sorry, he said to Lyrelai that night as they stood together on their balcony. I am not the same man you fell in love with. No, she agreed. You are more. You are someone who chose to sacrifice his peace to protect everyone he loved. That is not a weakness, Marcus. That is the strongest thing anyone can do. Marcus felt something ease in his chest. The part of him that was the Ghost General would always be there, ready to awaken if needed. But it did not have to define him. I want to tend the gardens again, he said quietly. Then tend them, Lyrelai said. Grow beautiful things. Heal the injured. Be kind to everyone you meet. Show the galaxy that the same hands that can bring war can also bring peace. Marcus smiled. For the first time since the battle ended, it was his gentle smile again. But now Lyrelai understood what that gentleness really meant. It was not weakness or innocence. It was the conscious choice of ultimate strength to be kind. I love you, he said. I love you too, she replied. All of you. The doctor, the warrior, and the man who chooses every day to be better than what he could be.